Hi, Opie friends. So today is day 29. That means tomorrow is finally day 30. I am so proud of myself that I kept up this habit for 30 days. If you guys have never put out videos before, it is not as easy as just plopping down in front of your laptop, recording and uploading. I think for the first few weeks, it was pretty easy for me because that was all I did. I just sat down, just spat out whatever was on my mind, and then went straight into uploading. But as days go on, you get tired of all the time it takes to record and edit and just getting all of your other stuff done. You start to brain fart on topics and you don't know what to talk about. I started to hit a lull thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. What did I get myself into? This is so much work. And then it's just like a constant cycle. So it was interesting to be able to track that. As of tomorrow, I will hit day 30, which means I am going to stop the daily videos and move toward a video once every few days, maybe every 5 days. And that'll just motivate me to put out better content that's been actually thought out, and it'll give me time to actually do more research and to comment on things that I have actually been able to digest, rather than just me every single day trying so hard to spit something out that I think might be interesting, because that was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. And I think that was part of the reason why I was getting so discouraged. I totally understand now why YouTubers have to commit to, 2 to 3 videos a week. And oftentimes they have someone else doing all the editing and the title shots and everything for them, because it takes so long. It takes so long. The last 30 days have been a blur of, honestly, schoolwork, recording, and editing. I feel like that's all I was able to do. And so I am kind of happy that I can sort of take a pause and devote some of my days back to being productive, back to exercising, reading, doing more research, consuming, just stuff like that I haven't been able to do because the videos and the editing was just getting so crazy. So another outfit change today. I feel like because of yesterday's typing results that I got, I feel a lot happier and a lot more myself. And so I just decided to change my outfit again. And this hat I never get to wear out, so I thought I would just wear it today. It's a cool hat. It's got a little face on it. And this one too, I also bought from Etsy when I was in high school a long ass time ago. And the only time I ever wore this was in high school after graduation to play a gig. In high school, I used to play the drums. I had a small band with some friends in high school, and it was fun. We just had like a bassist, 2 guitarists, a singer, myself, and a keyboardist. We used to play a lot of Blink-182 covers. We had a few originals, punk, pop, alternative, rock sound. It was fun. It was fun. So this hat just reminds me of that performance, because we actually did get to play in a legitimate venue, because one of our bandmates, his family owned a venue. So it was basically like a performance that we had set up there to play some of our originals. It was actually a pretty long set list. And yeah, so this hat just reminds me of that. Just the times when I used to be able to just jam and play. I haven't played the drums in a really long time, and not like I'm good. I don't like it when people assume that I'm good. Like I'm fine. I'm fine at it. It was more of a way to just express and, just have fun, I guess. Like, one of my favorite things was to just listen to my favorite songs and just play along with it. But drums is just one of those things that's so hard to transport around with you. I had a legitimate set, and then I had a few electric sets after that. My electric set is still in my parents' storage room. I think I should probably go retrieve it, but it's just so many parts. It's not one of those crappy pad sets. It's like legitimate high-end one. It's very, very bulky, and the cymbals are like hard rubber. And then of course there's the seat and all of the pedals. And so it's a lot of moving parts. It's very heavy. And so it's one of those things that you can't really just take around with you, which is funny because when I was a kid, I had to take piano lessons, and between piano and drums, it was never an instrument that I could just take around with me and practice or just play around with. I was always a little bit envious of people who played like violin or guitar, something that's transportable, because with piano and drums, you can't just, I mean, I guess with like a keyboard, there's pretty good quality keyboards out there now. How I got into drums, I was always quite naturally good at rhythm. And so one of my favorite things, like I love dancing, I love rhythm games, like, you know, like Dance Dance Revolution, DDR, when it was like really popular back in the day, like those types of games I love. Like I'm just like naturally good at it because I have rhythm, I guess. And I attribute it to probably my dad and my Filipino side of my blood. He's always like tapping along to music, and I kind of grew up the same, where I just had rhythm in me. I was never good at piano, but I was sort of forced to play it when I was a kid. And it's interesting because my brother and I both played piano, and he was so good at it. He's so good at it. And he was one of those kids that could minimally practice and then show up at piano practice and just sight read and get by. And that was so unfair. Like I didn't like practicing. I was not good at piano, and to this day I really struggle with reading notes. So even for the piano pieces, it was like I had to listen to the song a bunch of times, and then once I knew the song inside, I could sort of look at the notes and then play it, and then use the sheet music as a guide. But more than anything, I was relying on how well I knew the song to be able to play it. And it was the same thing with drums. So how I got into playing drums in high school, you have to do, what is it, marching band, concert band, or jazz band. You had to take some kind of art class. I first started with concert band playing percussion. And percussion in my head was kind of like being a drummer, but everything is separate. So, you know, there's one person playing this giant bass drum, there's one person playing the timpanis, there's one person playing the xylophone and, you know, the triangle, and it was all split up. I just remember in concert band just being so bored. It was just so boring because the rest of the band, which is all of the actual instruments, you know, they would have to keep practicing. For the percussion section, we were always just like messing around because, you know, it was so easy. I remember at that time, I would just always be like secretly listening to music or something. I think my teacher had a talk with my mom and said she would probably do a lot better in jazz band, and it was called stage band. And in jazz band, it was the entire drum set. And so I thought, cool, because I loved, you know, just punk music, rock music at that time. I mean, I still do. So I got into jazz band, which is how I started learning the drum set. I was not really too good at reading sheet music, especially when it comes to jazz music. There's a lot of sections for improv, and then there's sections for drum solos. But I guess that is what I enjoyed about jazz too, is that it was very play it by ear. And if someone were doing an amazing solo, then the conductor would want to keep that going. It's the job of the band, and especially the bassist and the drummer, to support that person in their solo. I did like that. It was very spontaneous, and you just kind of go with the flow. If genius strikes anyone in that moment of their solo, then it was our job to just back them up as much as possible. So I did like that part about jazz drums. But I always struggled with reading music. And so I was much better at just winging it and playing it by ear, and then getting familiar with the song first, and then being able to really come in with all the technical stuff. When I was able to jam with just my friends and things was when I had the most fun, because it was always covers of songs that I already knew. And so I could just retrieve it from my memory and play. And also, when we made our own original songs, it was like I didn't have to be confined to the sheet music. So I could put my own feeling behind it and support the song in any way that I chose, which was really fun for me. For all of you other INFPs or ENFPs, are you guys like that too, where you don't like so much to read sheet music and you like to play more spontaneously and what you like? I love music so much, but I don't like being forced to play music. It's like when I'm forced to do anything that I like, I start to not like it. You know, and same thing with design, right? Like I taught myself Photoshop and design because no one could really live up to the stuff that I saw in my head. And so I took responsibility for, okay, if I want visuals to look exactly this way, then I'm just going to have to do it. And so that's the reason why I took up Photoshop. As I progressed in my skills, I started getting requests and clients and things like that. And it's funny how when you are forced to do something creative, it no longer is fun. Like, do you guys also relate to that? I did go through a very long struggle of, I hate this, and other people telling me what to do, and also me not being able to have creative freedom, even though what I see in my head is what I think is best for the situation. It was hard to give up a lot of that creative freedom. I had to learn the hard way that I don't necessarily have to like it. I just need to do it and get it over with. And then once I get it over with, I have time to do my own creative things. I had to make that switch so that I wasn't just bogged down by issues of creative direction and things like that. I get paid just to do what they want. And so I might as well just do it exactly that way. It's purely transactional. And if I can think about it that way, then it's not personal. I don't have to get bogged down over it. That was something I had to learn the hard way. So if you watched my video yesterday, you know that I got my typing results back from Benjamin and his team. And so far I got 4 typing results back, and I am waiting on team 2 to send me their results. So I'm guessing it's another group of 4. Right now in the lead is ENFP, which I didn't expect, but I think it's consistent with me being savior, intuition, and feeling, and it's consistent with me being high NE and FI. I still think that I'm most likely an INFP with consume play, which is why I come across as a more extroverted INFP. But, you know, it is entirely possible that maybe I have it all wrong and I'm actually an ENFP that comes across more introverted. I'm not really sure yet, but it was interesting. Today is day 29, and in those 29 days, I cycled through seriously thinking that I was lead TI, that I was SIFI, that I was FESE, that I was TESE, NETI. Finally, day 27, it looks like others are confirming that FI and NE are my saviors. And again, I definitely overcomplicated the OP process. I think it's just a lot of what Dave and Shan say in their videos that threw me off. Like, they say frequently that people type themselves completely upside down because they can't see their saviors and demons, or the functions that you have most awareness over are the middle functions because that's what you have clear visibility over. And I think it's all of these types of anecdotes that really messed me up. And I thought, okay, so if all of those things are true, then there's no way that I would be able to see FI and NE because I wouldn't be able to see my savior functions. And so I think that really set me up for a lot of the wrong expectations. I am very happy to be back on course, knowing that I'm most likely an NF because that's what I've always identified with. Some of the other typings were just so mind-boggling to me, but I was willing to accept it and go with it, thinking that, okay, clearly I'm not supposed to have visibility over my middle functions, and so this must be right. This is turning into an interesting journey because I really, really thought that my final OP type was just going to be so unexpected and jarring, but it's looking like it's probably going to be INFP and ENFP, so cool. So one thing I wanted to talk about was, and I'm sure other INFPs and ENFPs will relate, you know, that tendency to be a little bit too honest about our feelings and our thoughts. And it's almost like when our NE and our FI is firing, it's like we have to just say the idea or the thought or the reaction. And sometimes it's not the most socially acceptable thing, but it's just very amusing to us, which is why we just need to say it. I think I have struggled with that a lot, not being able to say things that were socially acceptable and being way too honest. Of course, it's gotten me into trouble in the past. And of course, there were times where I really, really regretted saying things in the moment because it did, make someone else feel bad or it got me into trouble or something. But it's like, I just can't help it. When I have that impulse to say something, it's like I literally can't help it. So I wonder if other INFPs and ENFPs can relate to that. I think that's why I get along so well with other INFPs and ENFPs. It's because we can be in that bubble together and say whatever the hell we want, just being our pure, honest selves, knowing that the other isn't going to be judging us. Because I don't know, it's like for other INFPs, do you have best friends that are ENFPs and vice versa? Because I swear we just get along so well, you know, compared to the rest of the world and some of the other types who are just very uptight, or they don't understand or can't keep up with our NE and our FI. Like, we must come across as just like, what the hell? I don't know. I love it. I love it. My over honesty has definitely gotten me into trouble before. And so I have learned the hard way to have to sometimes just bite my tongue. But I think that because I am so overly honest, it also makes me very amused and attracted to thinkers that are overly blunt. So, you know, like the INTJs and the ENTJs, they will just be so direct and blunt and not even caring about other people's feelings, and like that is so amusing to me, and like they make me laugh. It's almost like a mutual, let's just say whatever the hell and not worry about social standards and, you know, all that bullshit. I mean, I guess on that note, ENTPs and INTPs too, they are not as blunt and direct, but they also don't have that, you know, like let's care about everybody's feelings and let's care about societal expectations and norms. That humor meshes so well. I was very lucky to grow up in an intuitive household. Oh man, that could be an entire video in and of itself. I don't know what it's like to grow up in a sensor household, but I was very lucky to grow up in a totally intuitive household. Me being an INFP, I grew up with an INTP brother. My dad is an ENTP and my mom is an INFJ. And so we are all intuitive. And I think because of that, I just grew up with a very strong bias toward being able to communicate with and understand intuitives just much better than sensors. Even before I got into typology, I always did notice this divide of people that I knew I could get along with who had that same energy and weirdness as me and ability to think outside the box. And then there was that other group of people who were very just focused on the here and now, and I had a very hard time connecting with them. And I think even long before I knew it was intuitive and sensory, that's probably what it was. It was just more pronounced for me because I grew up in such an intuitive household. With my Myers-Briggs background, every time I took the assessment on the scale of intuition and sensing, my results were just so far on the intuitive side. I think that's why I am so clumsy with my ability to get along with sensors. It's almost like a mutual disinterest in each other. And I could sense this a lot in the business world. I went to business school for college, and then I immediately went into business. And so there are a lot of those networking events. I could always just divide up the room in these networking events of who I knew I would get along with and who I definitely wouldn't get along with. And it was probably the sensors. And now knowing that sensing and thinking are my demons, that makes so much sense why I struggle so much in those networking type of situations, because I don't like to talk about the sensory and I also don't like to talk about TE. And TE would be just the tribe and thinking in the external world. And so when you have those as your demons, the only thing you're really good at is like it's like at least for me, I have to rely on my saviors, which are FI and NE. And so yeah, to someone in a networking or business setting, those functions are just going to seem so frivolous and aloof and silly and unnecessary. And so it just makes sense why I always felt so uncomfortable. I think the only way I was able to navigate my way through business and to even succeed in business was my NE, like absolutely. And NE does come across as intellectual and creative, right? Because we're always looking out for more possibilities, more options, different perspectives, going off in a lot of different ways. And so I think that is what allowed me to prove myself in the business world. I always came up with different ideas than everybody else, because if it was obvious, it's like a waste of time. Like, why would you state the obvious? And that's how I always thought of it. I definitely had to flex that muscle very, very hard in the business world in order to be even respected or appreciated or seen. So that is what I did. And business is fun in a creative sense, but it feels very, very difficult to me. And from a function perspective, that totally makes sense. And even when I was in business school, I felt like I didn't really get along too well with most of the business types. Again, that makes sense, is because I was just all in on my NE and my FI and my creative weird quirks, while everyone else was very goal focused and numbers, statistics. So I think there was a huge disconnect, which is why I am changing careers at the moment and going back to school for psychology. I don't regret going into business. I learned a lot, and I know now that no matter what happens, I can, start my own business and support myself in that way. But it's definitely not the easiest or most comfortable place for me to be. I struggle a lot in order to keep up that facade, and I do consider it a facade for sure. And so I am going into psychology because, well, I just have so much passion for mental health and, just lifting people out of their darkness, because I've been there too. I've always wanted to go into that, but then I ended up choosing business and marketing, which is fine. I don't regret it, but I'm going back to school for psychology now because that will just be so much easier for me, because it's everything that I'm good at and it's everything that I love. And if it's something that you love and you're good at, then you're not going to be expending too much energy. If it's something you love, then it's not work, right? It's not work. You could just do it forever and ever and ever and not get tired. And that's how I feel about psychology and therapy. I'm sure other INFPs will agree that we are just really great listeners. There's just something in us where we listen, and it's actually crazy to me how other people don't listen, because I just can't relate to that, I guess. But for me, even to my own detriment, I will just listen to death no matter what time it is. Even if I have to go and I have other commitments, it's like if someone is talking and if someone is saying something, especially if they're talking about their problems, I will sit there and listen like forever. It's weird to talk about because it's just so natural to me, so it feels silly even talking about being a good listener. That's why I think that I want to be a therapist, because it's just going to seem so much more natural for me to do. Having gone through many counseling and therapy sessions, I did also experience just the varying qualities of therapists that are out there, the mental health crisis increasing, and the fact that it's affecting not only my generation, but the generations younger. If they don't have access to a good therapist or a good counselor, then what's the point, right? So I don't know. I feel this enormous responsibility to be in that space so that I can make the biggest difference in people's lives. And so that's why I'm so passionate about it. And that's why I want to go into it. I am very excited about making the switch from business to going into psychology. I think secretly what will be really interesting too is that when I do become a therapist and I have clients, I'll probably be able to assess them from a typology perspective as well. And I'll probably have notes, like my own personal notes on their type, and then also just their progress in therapy. And so I think it'll be really interesting and fun for me to be able to do that and to have access to all of these different personalities and the things that afflict them. So I'm very excited to go into that as my new career. I think I will make longer videos in the future about me as an INFP and my experience in the business world, starting a business and running the business, of course, and just how much I struggled with that. I think it might be helpful for other INFPs to hear. Also, I wanted to talk about the synergies of INFP and INTJ and how we were able to combine forces and start that business together. And we still, run our businesses together. And I feel like we cover a lot of each other's blind spots. And so it's just been a really, really good pairing. And so I will unpack a little bit about how we are able to work together and take advantage of our strengths in order to succeed in the business world. Okay, well, I think I'll stop there today. And thank you again for watching my ridiculous video. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, day 30, my last day. All right, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.